McKenna stood barefoot in the snow, watching the gifts she wrapped with her last coins sink into the ice like they didn't matter. Her father's voice cut through the freezing air. "You think you deserve anything in this house? You earn nothing. You are nothing." She didn't speak. She didn't beg. She simply whispered one sentence that froze him harder than the winter night. "Baba, this house isn't yours." His mocking grin vanished, because those 5 words were about to destroy everything he believed he controlled. McKenna woke up on Christmas Eve hoping the day would feel different, even just a little. But the house was the same as always. Her younger siblings laughed around the tree, showing their father the decorations they made. He smiled at them, patted their heads, and told them how clever they were. When McKenna walked into the room, the warmth faded immediately. Her father's eyes turned cold, and her stepmother acted like McKenna was only there to clean up after everyone. McKenna didn't expect love or praise, but she still wanted Christmas to feel special. She had been saving small amounts from the students she tutored. It wasn't much, but she bought simple gifts: tiny bracelets, pencils, a storybook, and a scarf for her father even though he never appreciated anything she did. She wrapped them slowly the night before, smiling to herself, imagining how her siblings might react. But the moment her father saw the wrapped gifts in her hands, everything changed. His face tightened, and anger rose in his voice before she even had time to speak. He accused her of trying to act better than everyone. He said she only wanted attention. McKenna tried to explain she just wanted to surprise her siblings, nothing more, but he didn't let her finish. He yelled so loudly the whole house fell silent. Then he grabbed her by the arm, dragged her to the door, and pushed her outside. The cold hit her instantly. Before she could pick up the gifts, he snatched them from her hands. One by one, he threw them into the snow, letting them sink into the ice as if they meant absolutely nothing. McKenna stood there without shoes or a coat, watching the gifts she spent weeks saving for disappear under the frozen white ground. Behind her, the door slammed shut. McKenna didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just wrapped her arms around herself, feeling the cold sting her skin, and wondered how a simple act of kindness could make someone so angry. Inside the house, Christmas music continued playing. But outside, McKenna stood alone, realizing that Christmas had never really belonged to her. It belonged only to the people her father cared about, and she was not one of them. Even then, she kept her head up. She silently picked up what she could from the snow, dusted off the frost, and told herself she would not let this night break her. McKenna stood in the snow, her feet freezing, her fingers numb, but her face calm. Too calm for a girl who had just seen her Christmas gifts destroyed. Her father watched her closely from the doorway, waiting for the moment she would finally collapse. He wanted tears. He wanted her to beg. He wanted to see her fall to her knees and apologize for something she never did wrong. That was how he kept control, by breaking her spirit. But today, something in McKenna felt different. Maybe it was the cold numbing her fear, or maybe it was the months she had spent hiding a truth so powerful it could shake the entire house. Whatever it was, she didn't cry. She didn't say sorry. She simply lifted her head, looked directly at him, and spoke in a quiet voice that sounded almost too calm for the moment. "Baba, these walls don't belong to you." For a second, her father froze. Not because of the words, but because of the way she said them, steady, confident, without fear. Then he burst into a loud, mocking laugh that echoed across the compound. He laughed so hard he had to hold the doorframe. "Listen," he shouted to the neighbors peeking from their verandas. "My daughter has finally gone mad. She thinks the house is hers." A few neighbors shook their heads. Others hid their smiles behind their doors. To them, McKenna was the quiet girl who never talked back, the girl who always carried a bucket or broom, the girl her father treated like a shadow. Seeing her speak with such firmness confused them. Her father continued laughing, calling her foolish, delusional, and ungrateful. But McKenna didn't give him the reaction he wanted. She didn't shout back. She didn't argue. She didn't explain what she meant. Instead, she slowly turned away from him and gently pushed the door open. She walked back inside with steady steps, brushing snow off her skirt. Her father followed behind her, still laughing, still talking loudly so everyone could hear. But she didn't turn around. She didn't offer a single extra word. She didn't need to, because the truth sitting inside her chest was bigger than his anger, bigger than his insults. bigger than his so-called authority. She walked down the hallway, as if she already knew the ending of a story he hadn't even begun to understand. The house around her felt different, like it was waiting for her, like it belonged to her in a way he could never imagine. McKenna said nothing more, but inside her mind one thought repeated with quiet strength. He can laugh now, but soon, he will understand exactly what those words meant. Months before the snowy Christmas night, McKenna's life had already begun to change, even though no one else in the house knew it. It started on a quiet afternoon, when she visited her late grandmother's small room at the back of the house. She went there often, just to feel close to the woman who had shown her more love in a single smile than her father had shown in years. While sorting through her grandmother's old books and clothes, McKenna found a brown envelope carefully hidden under a stack of blankets. Her name was written on it in her grandmother's handwriting. With shaking hands, she opened it, expecting maybe a letter or a small message. Instead, she found official papers, heavy sealed stamped documents. At first, she didn't understand what she was looking at, but when she read the words slowly, one line at a time, her breath caught in her throat. The house they lived in, the place her father believed he controlled completely, did not belong to him. It belonged to her. Her grandmother, Sefu's mother, had left a will, and in that will, she had transferred ownership of the entire family house to McKenna alone. McKenna sat on the floor for a long time, reading the papers again and again, feeling her heart beat harder each time. She could hardly believe it. Why would her grandmother choose her? Why not her father, the eldest son? Why not divide it among the children? Then she found the letter. A simple handwritten note from her grandmother, folded with care. In it, she explained everything. She wrote about the nights she watched McKenna being shouted at while her father praised the younger children. She wrote about the way McKenna always protected her siblings, even when she was tired or hurting. She wrote about how her own son, McKenna's father, had grown harsh and selfish over the years, hurting those he should have loved. Her grandmother believed McKenna was the only one strong enough to protect the house and protect the younger children living in it. She wanted McKenna to have a safe place, a place where no one could throw her out, no matter how angry or unfair they were. And most of all, she wanted McKenna to have the power her father always tried to take away from her. McKenna cried quietly as she read the letter, holding it against her chest. For the first time in her life, someone had trusted her with something big, something life-changing. She hid the documents deep inside her school bag, buried under her law textbooks. She didn't tell anyone, not her siblings, not a friend, not even the lawyer who had helped. Her grandmother finalized the papers. She was scared of what her father might do if he found out. She knew the truth would cause chaos, anger, maybe even violence. So she kept the secret close to her heart. A secret too powerful to speak. A secret that would one day change everything. After Christmas, the house turns even darker for McKenna. Her father stops pretending to tolerate her. Every morning he wakes up angry, shouting at her for reasons that make no sense. He begins locking the food cabinets, keeping the keys in his pocket, so she can't touch anything unless he allows it. Even when she returns home late from classes, tired and hungry, he tells her she doesn't deserve food because she disrespected him. He calls her ungrateful, useless, and a burden, repeating the words until they almost sound like a daily routine. Her stepmother doesn't stay quiet either. She blames McKenna for every small problem in the house. If the youngest child misplaces something, she says McKenna hid it. If a cup breaks, she says McKenna did it on purpose. If dinner burns, she claims McKenna distracted her. It feels as if they both decided McKenna is the reason for everything that goes wrong. They don't even hide their dislike anymore. McKenna tries to stay calm. She keeps her head down, studies harder, avoids arguments, and focuses on protecting her younger siblings who still see her as the only gentle person in the house. But inside, her heart grows heavier each day. She knows she is being pushed toward the edge. She also knows she has a place to stand firm if she chooses, but revealing it too early could turn the home into a battlefield. One night, everything becomes clear. McKenna is returning from her room when she hears voices in the living room. She stops when she recognizes her father's low, angry tone. Her stepmother sits close beside him, whispering suggestions like she is adding fire to a burning pot. They don't realize McKenna is nearby in the hallway, hidden in the shadows. Her father sighs heavily and says, She needs to leave. She thinks she's grown. Let her go live on her own. Her stepmother nods quickly. Yes, let her leave. Once she steps out, we'll sell this house. We will finally start fresh. McKenna's heart stops for a moment. They weren't just pushing her out for peace. They wanted to get rid of her so they could take the house. They had no idea it didn't belong to them anymore. They had no idea the papers they wanted to sign would put them in trouble. They had no idea the house they were planning to sell was legally hers. In that moment, McKenna feels something inside her shift. Staying silent will not protect anyone. Staying quiet will allow them to ruin everything her grandmother tried to save. She knows now, without any doubt, that she must speak, must act, and must reveal the truth before they destroy what was meant to protect her and her siblings. McKenna sat in the lawyer's small office, her fingers twisting together as she waited. The room smelled of old books and paper, and every tick of the clock made her heart beat faster. She had come here because she could no longer carry the secret alone. Her grandmother's words, written and spoken long ago, kept replaying in her mind, pushing her to finally take action. When the lawyer walked in, his face softened with recognition. He had known her grandmother for many years, and seeing McKenna reminded him of the woman who once trusted him with something very important. He sat down across from her and opened a metal drawer slowly, almost carefully. From inside, he took out a brown envelope that looked untouched since the day it was sealed. He placed it on the table between them. McKenna stared at it, feeling her heartbeat rise. She already knew what was inside, but seeing it again made everything more real than before. The lawyer slid the envelope toward her and said gently, "Your grandmother left these for you. Everything is official. Everything is valid." McKenna opened it with trembling hands. The first document was the deed to the house, her family home. Her name was printed clearly, the same name her father loved to insult and belittle. The next paper confirmed the legal transfer, stamped and signed by all required offices. She traced her fingers over the ink, feeling the truth settle in her chest like a heavy stone. This was not imagined. This was not something she made up in anger. The house truly belonged to her. Then she unfolded the final paper, a handwritten letter from her grandmother. The handwriting was shaky but filled with love. Her grandmother explained why she chose McKenna. She wrote that she had watched how her son treated his children, how he favored some and crushed others. She wrote that McKenna had a gentle heart, a strong spirit, and the courage to protect her siblings when no one else would. "You are the light in this house," the letter said, "and I know you will guard it better than anyone." By the time McKenna finished reading, her hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the weight of everything her grandmother had trusted her with. She felt a mix of pride, sadness, and a responsibility she could no longer run from. The lawyer looked at her quietly, letting her take in every detail without rushing. McKenna finally breathed deeply, folded the papers, and placed them back in the envelope. She stood up with a calm she hadn't felt in months. She knew what she had to do now. She could no longer hide. She could no longer wait. It was time. McKenna took a deep breath and called everyone into the living room. Her father and stepmother came first, looking annoyed, muttering under their breath, expecting her to bow her head and apologize like she always did. Her younger siblings shuffled in behind them, unsure why the air felt so heavy and tense. McKenna stayed calm, her hands folded over a stack of papers she had carried carefully in her bag. She didn't rush. She didn't beg. She simply looked at each of them and waited until they all had a seat. Her father smirked, confident that this was another moment to humiliate her. He leaned back, arms crossed, and said, "Well, what is it this time, my little foolish girl? Another excuse to make trouble?" McKenna didn't answer. Instead, she slowly set the documents on the coffee table, spreading them out neatly so everyone could see them. The room grew quiet. Her stepmother leaned forward, curious but suspicious, scanning the papers like she could see through them. Her father laughed loudly, the kind of laugh that said he didn't take her seriously. "What's this? Some fake papers? You think you can trick me?" he shouted, clearly enjoying the moment. He waved his hand dismissively, as if the stack of papers was worthless. McKenna looked at him steadily and said nothing. She picked up the first paper, turning it so he could see the official stamps, the embossed seal, and her grandmother's unmistakable signature at the bottom. Her father's eyes flicked down quickly, then back up, confusion replacing the confidence in his expression. McKenna moved her hand to the next document, the lawyer's letter explaining everything. The paper detailed why her grandmother had chosen her as the sole owner of the family house, highlighting how she had always been responsible, careful, and protective of her younger siblings. The moment her father recognized the lawyer's official seal and read the final legal notice, his face went pale. His smirk faded, and the color drained from his cheeks as if someone had pulled the warmth from the room. He opened his mouth to argue, to deny, to laugh again, but no words came. He finally understood what McKenna had been holding inside for so long. The house, the place he had claimed as his authority, had legally belonged to McKenna for a full year. He had thought he could control everything, but now he saw that the power he had depended on fear and ignorance. His stepmother's jaw dropped as she read the documents herself. Even her siblings stared in shock, realizing McKenna's quiet strength had always been there, waiting for this exact moment. McKenna sat back, letting the silence fill the room. She didn't need to shout. She didn't need to fight. The truth was clear, undeniable, and powerful. This was the day everything turned. Her father's face turned red with anger the moment the reality sank in. His hands shook, his voice rose, and suddenly he wasn't the calm, confident man he had always been. "This is witchcraft. This is a lie. You forged these papers," he shouted, slamming his fists on the table. He grabbed a chair and threw it across the room. It hit the wall with a loud crash, and McKenna flinched for a moment but did not move. He tore at the documents, shoving them into his hands as if destroying them could erase the truth. "How dare you betray me? After everything I've done for you," he yelled. His stepmother cowered behind him, afraid but also angry, blaming McKenna for making their life miserable. The younger siblings watched silently, fear in their eyes, unsure if he would hurt them next. McKenna did not back down. Her voice was calm, firm, and steady, carrying more power than his screams. "If you sell this house, you will go to prison," she said, looking him straight in the eye. "These papers are legal. They are real. And they are not negotiable." For the first time, her father froze. He wanted to yell, to intimidate, to scare her into submission, but her words hit harder than any of his threats ever could. McKenna's siblings slowly moved closer to her, standing beside her quietly, their presence like a shield. They had always been afraid of him, but now they finally saw the truth. McKenna had been right all along. She had protected them, she had been patient, and she had finally claimed what was hers. Her father's rage turned into disbelief. He could not accept that the house he had controlled, that he had used to punish and dominate, was legally hers. The shock of losing control, of seeing his children choose McKenna over him, hit him harder than the fact that the house was no longer his. Every scream, every accusation, every chair thrown had no effect on the reality that stared him in the face. McKenna remained calm. She did not yell. She did not try to fight him physically. She simply stood there, steady, unshaken, letting the law and the truth speak louder than anger. Her younger siblings' silent support gave her strength, and together, they made a wall her father could not break. He stumbled back, gasping for words, realizing finally that nothing he did or said could change the papers, could change the law, or could change the fact that McKenna was no longer afraid. The power he had relied on for so many years had slipped through his hands, and there was nothing he could do to get it back. McKenna watched her father stand in the middle of the living room, his face still red, his chest heaving with anger. He looked like a man who had lost everything he thought he owned. McKenna could feel the tension in the air, the years of fear and control pressing down on her. She could have shouted, yelled, or tried to humiliate him back, but she didn't want revenge. She didn't want to hurt him. All she wanted was peace, peace for herself and her younger siblings, peace that had never existed in this house before. She took a deep breath, steadying her hands, and looked at him with calm eyes. "This is your choice now," she said quietly but firmly. "You can respect that this house belongs to me and live here peacefully, or you can leave immediately and take your stepmother with you." Her father froze, as if he hadn't expected her to speak this way. He opened his mouth to argue, to beg, to threaten, but she didn't give him the chance. She had already made her decision. She would not let him control her any longer. The house had been hers all along, and now he had to accept it. For a few long seconds, the room was silent. Her stepmother whispered something under her breath, and her father's fists clenched tighter at his sides. Then, without a word, he chose rage over humility. He turned on his heel and stormed toward the door, dragging her stepmother behind him. Their footsteps echoed through the hallway as they slammed the front door behind them, leaving the house, and McKenna, alone. McKenna's legs trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the sudden weight of freedom. The silence that followed was different this time. It wasn't heavy or scary. It wasn't filled with shouting or threats. It was quiet, soft, and full of possibility. She could hear her younger siblings moving behind her, their small steps careful as they realized the house was finally safe. She walked slowly to the door, placing her hand on the handle where her father and stepmother had left. She closed it gently, listening as the outside world seemed to settle around her. The cold winter air didn't feel sharp anymore. It felt like a shield, like the world was giving her a chance to breathe freely for the first time. McKenna's heart pounded, but it wasn't fear. It was relief. It was triumph without cruelty. She didn't scream. She didn't gloat. She simply let the door click shut and whispered to herself, trembling but strong, "We are free now." The house was hers, and for the first time, she felt the kind of peace she had always dreamed of. A peace built not on revenge, but on courage and truth. McKenna walked through the house, taking it in for the first time as if she could feel its heartbeat. Every corner that had once felt cold and heavy now seemed to whisper possibilities. She rolled up her sleeves and began to clean, to paint, to rearrange the furniture. Each brushstroke on the walls felt like a small victory, each sweep of the broom like reclaiming a part of herself that had been hidden for years. She cleared out rooms that had been cluttered with her father's mess and stepmother's constant chaos, making space for warmth and light. Her younger siblings watched her carefully at first, still cautious after years of fear. But slowly they joined in. They painted with laughter spilling from their lips, planted small flowers in the front yard, and dusted shelves with careful hands. For the first time, McKenna saw their faces relax, their shoulders loosen, their smiles genuine. The house, once filled with tension and anger, began to breathe with them, to feel alive with their hope. Every night, McKenna sat by the window with her books and notes, the soft glow of the desk lamp illuminating her face. The cold winter nights no longer felt harsh because the warmth of the home had finally returned to her heart. She promised herself that this house, this space she had fought for, would never again be a place of fear or control. It would be a place of learning, of laughter, of safety. She studied hard, planning her future, determined to build a life where no one could ever diminish her worth again. The smell of paint mixed with the scent of fresh flowers in the yard, creating a calm she had never known. She hung curtains of her choosing, arranged the furniture to suit her taste, and let her siblings pick their favorite spots for reading or playing. McKenna watched as they decorated their rooms with drawings and little handmade crafts, filling the walls with color and life. The sound of their laughter echoed through the halls, replacing the shouting and cruelty that had haunted the space for so long. McKenna felt a quiet pride, a strength that came from knowing she had turned a place of fear into a home of love. Each day, she could see how far they had come, how her siblings, once timid and silent, now ran through the rooms freely, their spirits unbroken. And every evening, as she looked out of the window at the soft glow of the lights she had placed outside, she whispered to herself a promise. She would protect this life, this home, and the people she loved, and she would never let anyone control her again. For the first time, the house felt like home, and she felt like she truly belonged. Months passed and winter came again, painting the world in white. McKenna stepped onto the porch of the house she had fought so hard to claim. The snow fell softly around her, settling on the railings and the small flowers she had planted, but this time it didn't bite at her skin. She was warm, wrapped in a thick coat, standing tall and steady, feeling a quiet strength she had never known before. The cold that had once felt like punishment, now felt like a gentle reminder of how far she had come. Inside, her younger siblings played quietly by the fire, their laughter and chatter filling the rooms with life. The house glowed warmly, every corner touched by McKenna's care, every wall painted with her choices, every shelf arranged with love. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs, safe and full of possibility. She could hear them giggling over small games, hear the familiar creaks of the floorboards under their running feet, and for the first time, she felt the weight of fear lift completely. McKenna leaned on the railing, looking out at the yard she had tended, the soft snowflakes landing on the flowers she had planted with her own hands. Her heart swelled, not with pride alone, but with peace. She thought of the years of being ignored, criticized, and controlled, of the nights she had shivered in the cold while her father shouted inside. And she realized that none of that suffering had been wasted. Every tear, every moment of silence, every secret kept had led her to this night. She whispered to herself, almost like a prayer, "I didn't fight to win. I fought so this house could finally feel like home." The words felt heavy with meaning, yet light with relief. She understood now that her battle wasn't about revenge, it was about protection. About making sure that what had been taken from her, what had been denied to them, could finally be theirs to keep. For the first time, McKenna allowed herself to smile fully, without fear, without hesitation. She watched the glow of the house behind her, the snow reflecting the warm lights, and felt a power she had never needed to claim over anyone. She had already earned something greater than anger or revenge. She had earned a home, a future, and the right to protect it. In that quiet, snowy night, she understood a truth more powerful than any victory over her father. The greatest revenge is not in breaking others. It is in rising stronger, keeping what they tried to take, and creating a life they cannot touch. McKenna turned back to the house, the laughter of her siblings ringing in her ears, and let the warmth fill her completely. She was free, and the house was finally home.